Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Image Scan Holdings PLC AGM Proceedings. Throughout this recorded meeting, attendees online will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question submitted today. However, all questions will be reviewed with responses published on the Investor Meet Company platform where it is appropriate to do so. I'd now like to hand you over to Chairman Tim Jackson. Good afternoon, sir.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tim Jackson. I'm chairman of the company, and it's my privilege to lead this part. It is now 1:30, so I'd like to inform those of us in the room and also those who are observing via the online platform. With me today is all the board, so we've got Vince Deary, Sarah Atwell-King, Richard Lever, and Sunil Vadgama. There's no planned fire drill today, so if the fire alarm does go off, then we need to exit. Follow me or one of the directors and we'll direct you to the exits. So the plan for the meeting today is that Vince is going to run through a brief presentation, and after that the board will take any questions people have got, and then we'll move to the formal business of the meeting. So Vince, over to you.
Okay, as Tim said, a very warm welcome to everybody, particularly our long-standing shareholders. It's nice to see lots of faces, and a special thanks to everybody who's made the effort to travel up to see us here today. So we'll do a presentation, and we'll also give you the opportunity at the end of the formal proceedings to go downstairs, have a look in our demonstration facility, and some of the staff will be available from the sales team as well to talk you through some of the latest products we've been doing and also how we're approaching the market. What I would say is when we do give the opportunity to go downstairs, please don't take any photographs, etc. And be conscientious of the kind of questions you're asking the staff. You're sophisticated investors and that kind of thing, and so let's try and keep them so that we don't lead them astray in that regard. In terms of the proceedings for today, I'm just going to go through this presentation. We have our Nomad here with us, Mike and Sarah from WH Ireland, so we're obliged to show you our legal obligations and disclaimers here. So let's move on to where we are in terms of structure of the board. So we started a planned change back a year ago now, and in July of 22 we made the official change where Tim became chairman, Sarah became CFO, and Richard became vice chairman, and I myself moved from an interim CEO position to being the full-time CEO. So that whole transition period was planned and was effected very smoothly, and we have a good, strong functioning board, and with the additional Sunil Vadgama, who's brought some extra technical expertise, particularly related to our sector. I think the board is even more strengthened, and we can talk about Sunil's strengths later as well, if you like. But let's go back to the performance and review of how we got on in 2022. It wasn't a good year, and we've published the accounts. A lot of the turnover has been impacted by the slowdown to COVID, and everybody uses COVID as an excuse for everything. The pandemic affected this, affected that. What I can say is that it truly has impacted our business. So for the first couple of years, whilst we were transitioning through the COVID period, there were a lot of government tender projects that were ongoing, and they were still being operated and they were being fulfilled. But during the second year of COVID, because a lot of these government departments, and we predominantly selling in, certainly on the portable side, into government organisation, police, armies, security forces, military type police, they weren't particularly occupied in their offices. So any new projects weren't initiated. And so that we found, so the impact in years 1 and 2 of the pandemic weren't hugely significant for us, but the impact in last year was very significant because we didn't see the same level of government contracts. And that's the reason why the orders that we see there are significantly down from the year before. I'll go on to talk about how we're seeing that progress in the coming year, so that you've got a feel for what's going on there. So in terms of the orders were down, the sales were down. One area where we were very good is in terms of keeping the margins and the profit up. And some of that is to do with the mix, because the new equipment business was down. We were more reliant on the after sales and service and support revenue, which is traditionally strong, has the higher margins. And I think it's a testament to the team within the organization that we were quite ingenious in how we looked after installations. We've got installations across the globe, and we'll show you that later, particularly on the industrial side. And we were able to keep all of those customers happy in terms of our service and support, and get them to renew contracts in times when we actually couldn't even travel. So we did a lot of online remote servicing, and we engaged the use of our partners. The overheads increased somewhat last year. The year before, we had limited amounts of travel. In 2022, events, shows, exhibitions started to come back on stream, so we invested quite heavily in getting that back. And our cycle period, or just gestation period for tenders and contracts, tends not to be a 3 or 4 month type thing. It tends to be a 6, 9 months type process. So when you attend these shows, you expect to see some of the outcomes. You can get a quick win, 2, 3 months, but you would expect to see anything between 9 and 12 months. So we're hoping that that investment there will start to pay off in our 23 performance. The stock, we had to make conscious decisions to protect our stock and show some resilience. We, like pretty much everybody else, was impacted by silicon shortages, chips, etc., electronic shortages, and even mechanical shortages. So we invested more in stock, and we also invested more in exhibition or demonstration equipment. So we launched a new product, the AS1 integrated system, and we've invested in demonstration equipment on that. So that, hence our stock has also increased there. Period end order book is up somewhat from the previous year, and the period end order book is always helpful because it gives you a good launch pad into the coming year. So just the fact that the period end order book is stronger than the previous year gives you a better indication of how we think 23 might progress. And the cash, obviously we've depleted cash, but if anybody knows us and our business, we tend to operate on neutral cash terms at worst. We're generally taking significant payments up front before we deliver goods to customers. What I did mean to say is that if anybody's got questions, we will take them at the end of the process. I just would like to go through the product range. So on the top left there, and if we go clockwise, we've got the AS1. That's the latest incarnation of our portable X-ray system. The portable X-ray systems are the bread and butter for image scan. And what we've done there is we've taken the existing technology, the ThreatScan LS1, LS3, and LSC, and said we want to move up in the specification and price range. And that's what the ThreatScan AS1 does. It uses a different technology, which we can talk about later. So it's a full field imaging or a solid state detector panel, whereas our traditional panels have been a scanning type panel where they have movement within the actual detector. We then look at the Axis CXI, which it was originally invented or designed around the mail screening, plus the ability to act like a baggage screening system that you would see in an airport type environment. So we can deploy this not only in mail screening rooms, but also in the front of house, corporate buildings, embassies, etc. So in the year, we've had a number of successes with that. The Axis 64, we've traditionally for 20, 30 years produced conveyorized systems. That market has become very tight margin-wise now. The very large players in that market have had 2 very, very bad years because the aviation sector has been incredibly hard hit during the COVID times. So that sector has become incredibly cutthroat, and some large players have put some very low cost items out there. So for us, that's not going to produce a huge amount of revenue and margin. And on the end there, the MDXI 400, which is our bread and butter system that goes into the industrial sector based around catalytic converter inspection. That business is holding up well. and it's a strong bit of industrial business with the after-sales revenue that goes with it.
We move on.
Yes.
In the middle of last year, I was given some figures, and I'm referring to what you had at the top left-hand corner there,
Yes.
the number of partners. So, in the middle of last year, I was told you had 50 partners, so that's an increase of 20%. And if that's the case, that's very good. But with the qualification, and I was told you had 64 territories, and now you're saying 83 countries.
Yeah.
So when you expand, that's potentially good for sales, but it also carries additional overheads. So A, are they in balance in your opinion? And B, do you expect the number next year to be bigger?
I do believe they are in balance. We are actively always striving to increase. One of the things that Tim is always saying to me is we need wider coverage. So if we've got more coverage of the marketplace, we've got more opportunity to sell. You've also mentioned the fact that we recently recruited in the sales team, and that recruitment in the sales team has then had the net effect of increasing the range of partners. And the installed base has also increased likewise to the same regard. I'll show you a geographical map of where we are installed. I don't think we're widely extended in terms of my role. I'm handing more over for the sales team, and we've got a very experienced sales team within here. So we understand our market very well. We understand our partner network very well. And the judicious thing is to pick the right partner. You invest in the right partner, and they will pay you dividends over the long term. And some of our partners have been around for a long time. We've got partners going back 10, 12 years, and the partners, we've done a review of our partner network recently, which is we've reviewed what their sales have been over a 3 and a 5 year period, and also not just sales, but inquiry levels.
So, as a private investor looking obviously to the future of the company, growth in market activity is obviously an important factor. So you might consider putting those kind of things in future reports, with comparisons with previous years, to show the progression of the company.
That's a good point. Take note. One of the things, just reflecting back in the increase in stock, one of the things we've had to do is invest in demonstration equipment, because we've got more partners who want demonstration equipment. And
if I ask about the balance, because the cost of maintaining a bigger area, you've got to keep those in balance. Can you say they are?
Yes. Sales team would always like a demonstration piece of product in every single country, but we've got to balance that and make the equipment work hard for us. And we do measure it. Just in terms of,
Looking at the revenue, it's held up in America, but in the Asia and Indian subcontinent, it's greatly reduced.
Yes.
Do you actually see the reasons for why it's reduced in some and held up in America?
I can see the reasons it's reduced in Asia and the Indian subcontinent is that they have been much more extremely affected by the pandemic than any other territories we've seen.
In a statement I read this morning that was emailed out that you're looking for the Asian one to improve.
Pick up, yes.
Is there any reason for that? What's it based on?
There is a reason for that, because I don't think that market should carry on for another 3 years and just not performing. And we've also already seen actual activity from those markets in terms of China's going to be a bit slower. The Indian market is beginning to recover because we see the activity levels in inquiry and demonstrations.
Is that with existing customers?
It's across the range. So our partners in those territories would be attacking or targeting new revenue as well as existing customers. So one of the things we've got is we can go to our existing customer base and say, you've been using this line scan system. We'd now like to morph you up to the higher level systems, and we've already got that entry into that customer. So we are starting to see India's coming back online quicker than China, and Southeast Asia is beginning to pick up a little bit as well.
Company took on an ex-American.
Yes.
How has that worked out?
In terms of his usefulness to the business, it was incredibly good in trying trying to educate the market. A great marketeer we didn't get the results in terms of sales that we expected or anticipated there. Some of that could have been down to timing, some of it down to acceptance of the product within that market, but he no longer works for us. We have employed 2 other partners in North America to look after North America, but they were both introduced by John Howells, who's the ex-US Marine that you talked about. Just going on from there, the portable system is our bread and butter. It's where we've got a great reputation in the marketplace. People know us, and our partners know us. And so whenever there are inquiries, tenders, etc., we will jump on those. But what we do need to do is increase the revenue from that space. And by introducing this amorphous silicon market, we're moving up the levels in terms of resolution and also the price point and sophistication of the equipment. So that's been launched in the marketplace and has been received very well. So everywhere we've taken that piece of equipment, people have really liked it, said this is good. And it is at a slightly higher price point for us as well. If we look at the where we are, our installed base, so we've got 7. This is just on the security side of things. So this is we've got 78 territories there in total. If somebody Kim very kindly put all those dots on for me. So we are well covered there. New Zealand and Austria are 2 notable additions to that. So we are well covered in terms of global coverage. I guess the one area that we might look at is the volumes that we produce out of the Americas. South Americas and North Americas tend to be low volumes for us. So if you were looking at a region where we'd like to do more from, it could be those regions. And we're certainly looking for India to come back on stream compared to the past year and a half. The next slide will show us our industrial installations. So this is primarily based around catalytic converter inspection in the process, where we're checking the amount of precious metal that's in a wash coat that is layered onto the catalyst and the installations there. So we've had new installations there in Canada in particular, and one in America as well. So in total, we've got 64 different installations of that product over 16 different countries. So I think we mentioned in the release this morning that there's obviously a transition within the automotive industry to EV. So what we're seeing at the moment is the catalyst manufacturers, and this is pretty much en masse, it's a theme running through all the manufacturers that we supply, where they're focusing their investment on Eastern Europe and Asia in terms of where they invest. So we are seeing some of the decline in North America and the UK in terms of production capabilities, and that production capability is tending to go out to Eastern Europe or Asia. But as I've said, that market's held up for us. We've got a program of refurbishing and replenishing the systems that are installed to bring them up to current manufacturing standards, both hardware and software, which is also good business. So in terms of what we want to do and where we're looking to go for, which is where the next few slides we're looking at. So we've covered what we've been doing, but what I want to get across is what we're likely or wanting to do in the future. So we've invested heavily in this ThreatScan AS1, and that's at the higher end of the portable offering. We want to refine and mature that product, make sure we've got really good coverage in that area. So at the moment, we've been at the mid-range level with our line scan systems. If we go into this amorphous silicon area, we want to make sure we've got a full range of components, ancillary devices, and options at that level as well. So that's going to be the focus for the R&D team this year. But what we've also got to do is look at other partnerships that we can work with. So the amorphous silicon, we predominantly do everything in-house ourselves. We've got our own electronics engineers, design engineers, mechanical, software, etc., etc. And we build everything ourselves. But we've got to look sometimes outside of this organisation for technologies that we can build into and partner with. And that's what we're saying there. And that's what we've got to look for to help grow the business. So in terms of outlook, I think also, as we mentioned in the release this morning, we made organisational changes within the year. So what we're looking at doing is working in a smarter, more efficient way. And the team around us here has been incredibly good in sort of taking on extra responsibilities, being really ingenious in terms of getting results for customers and bringing new products to market. So we've got to commend the team here for doing that. But so we've made those changes. The other thing we've got to do now is look at new markets. As I've said, the new products have been well received, but well received needs to turn into sales and into revenue. And that's the stage where we're getting to now. So we're placing the product as widely as we can. It's being very heavily demonstrated at the moment. And that process will continue. What we want to do is research our partner network, any associated companies that might have technologies that we can bolt on, that we can synergize with. And there are a number of players out there where there may be some synergy in terms of if we're producing portable EOD equipment, that could be portable EOD tools manufacturers, bomb suit manufacturers, robot manufacturers. That's the kind of people we're looking to work more closely with, because that's the way I think the industry will go. There'll be packaging of products together rather than just somebody going out and buying one single X-ray panel. They may go and buy an X-ray panel with a bomb suit, with a robot, etc. On the industrial side, as we've said, we're migrating to low-cost territories, and we're going to continue to support and upgrade the systems that we have. And we will still see a number of new capital equipment purchases, but over a period of time, that will decline in line with the automotive industry change from combustion engine to EV technology. So we've got to be conscious of that. But one of the areas we've got to look at is, can we get into that fuel cell manufacturing type business? Because I believe, and I think it's general belief, is that lithium ion will be around for so long, but hydrogen fuel cells could very well be the future of EV. And if we can get in there at an early stage, that would be good for us. Inspect their components in terms of during manufacture. That's what we would try to do. We would try to replicate what we do for the catalyst industry in the hydrogen industry. Technologically, it could be quite a challenge. We've got to get into there, and that's something, it's an area where I can see the progression from where we are to a new industry would be a logical progression, because that's what our customers are doing. So our customers are tending to be catalyst manufacturers. They're tending to move into hydrogen cell type production.
I mean, all use, I'm not a technical person, all use of hydrogen as a fuel would require containers, and all such containers would need inspection.
We're not talking about containers, we're talking about the buildup of a fuel cell, which is actually layers, very thin layers, micron thick, which are impregnated with precious type metals. And so we're building up fuel cells in that regard.
So hydrogen is used in fuel cells. Didn't know that.
Yes. But that's what we believe, or the considered opinion, would be the future, because lithium, we believe, has got a certain lifetime.
Is that kind of stuff going on in universities or?
It's going on in manufacturing. Yeah, so all the car manufacturers are using lithium ion at the moment, but they're all looking at hydrogen. We're trying to be in touch, yeah. We're desperately trying down that route. Supply chain issues, we're still going to see some supply chain issues this year. We've still got higher stock than we would normally have, and we're still seeing lead times of 36 weeks for components, which is ridiculous, quite honestly, because if we want to deliver in 12, 14 weeks or 16 weeks, you get 36-week lead time. It causes problems. So we do expect those to exist, but hopefully diminish. And obviously we see a cost of living rise, and the cost of material rise, and the cost of shipping rise. One of the other things I would like to talk about is the shareholder engagement. We have one of the objectives when Tim took over his role as chair was to try and re-engage some of our major shareholders, and in particular Rystep International. So we started on that process, and I think we've achieved a good level, a good foundation. We've re-established good contact with them, and we can actually have a relationship with them. So that's been a positive step. So, two areas for growth: organic growth, which I've done at length up until this point, and I think the strategic growth is the fact that if we're more engaged with our shareholder base, if we trade well over the coming year, options become available to us. As a listed company, we've got a lot of costs, but one of the things about having a listed company, you do then potentially have a vehicle to be acquired, make acquisitions, etc., etc. But you need to have shareholder backing for that. So what we're trying to do is put the foundations in place so that we can do that in the future. Sorry.
As a new board member, is there any background to that? Did Steprise actually say we want to have someone?
Yeah, there is. So we initiated the contact to re-engage Rystep back in July, and we started talking through the organisation that we have and what we'd like to do going forward. And it was their estimation that we could do with extra industry expertise specific to our sector in terms of X-ray and X-ray expertise. So we said, okay, we're open to that. We understand what you're saying. You're obviously a major shareholder, and we want to respect your views. So a mutual related party between Rystep and ImageScan did a scout round, suggested Sunil, who's got decades of industry experience. So it was nominated to us. Obviously, Rystep were very, very keen or very happy for us. So we interviewed Sunil, did the background checks, obviously went through the city regulations, etc. And that's why we've appointed Sunil. And Sunil's got, you're telling me how many years of experience he's got with RapidScan. RapidScan are a major player within the security X-ray industry. But what I will say is that Sunil has already started to contribute to the technical side of our business. So we're already seeing a practical day-to-day benefit of having Sunil on board.
Does it affect the product range? Does it affect the customer base? Existing customers?
At the moment, it will hopefully improve our ability around the product range. It's not going to have any immediate effects in terms of extending the product range. It will give us a much better understanding of our own products as well, and also our ability to support products will be improved with Sunil's appointment. I think, unless anybody's got any other questions at this moment in time.
Just looking online, Vince, you've answered. There was another question about Sunil, but do you want to just talk about ThreatScan and any recurring income that might be generated by that?
So in terms of ThreatScan, in the industrial sector, we get recurring revenue. Everybody takes out an annual support contract, normally 24/7. In the security sector, it tends to be less so the case. In fact, it's rarely the case in terms of getting after sales revenue. And that's an industry thing. I come from a different industry where it's almost obligatory. Everybody took out service or an after sales type contract. Within the security industry, it doesn't happen. There's a number of reasons for that. If you're supplying to a secret service somewhere, they just don't want you to be involved. They don't want you to hook into the equipment after sales, etc. So we get a small element of it, of after sales revenue from the portable X-ray, but nothing significant.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Any other questions in the room before we move on?
Could I just ask, you said very confidently about the superior products that you've got and how much advantages they've got over competitors. As you did say, at the end of the day, it comes back to sales. And you talk about new partners and being confident in their ability, what steps have you taken to ensure that you're actually going to get sales and something out of these existing and also the new partners?
In terms
It's
of
different to what is already happening.
in terms of what we've done there is our partner network tends to be very strong for a relatively small organisation. They have for a long time been crying out for more product from us. So their enthusiasm and appetite for product is not in question. So what we're doing is providing them with the demonstration equipment, as much demonstration equipment as we can, as quick as we can, so that they can take it to market. The sooner they take it to the market, the sooner the process can complete and we can get sales.
Is that in place or is that ongoing?
That's in place.
It's in place.
So already
So your partners have got the goods.
equipment, and we're desperate for more equipment. We've got equipment in Abu Dhabi. We've got some equipment that's on its way out into the Far East as well.
So do you see progressive growth in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months because of the contacts that are being made? And I know a lot of the contacts take, as you say, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to fruition. But there are short-term or medium-term goals that probably you will have. It doesn't, if they're not governmental, they're not big, the completion period from to get an order is much less. There must be a number of those that are coming to fruition, or you would hope.
That's a fairly small. That's a fairly small number. That gestation period is rarely shortcut. Occasionally you will get something on a 2-3 month lead time, but predominantly it will be 6 months, 9 months. What I can say is that we launched this in 22 in Dubai in a show that was fairly lightly attended, but some of our partner network purchased the following April. So you can get that, and that's a quick win. But traditionally you would wait 6-9 months. So there's a lot of product placement going on at the moment. So I would say that will take another 6 to 9 months before you started to see the benefit of that. So in terms of placing products in marketplaces, not just speaking from this industry, 12 months to 2 years to get a product accepted around the world can be not unusual.
Right. We're not talking about 12 months from now, because some of those.
Yeah, some of it's already started.
Last
Yeah.
year.
And it's a building process as well, because
So
you started
at the end of the year,
Yeah.
should be
Yes.
productive time.
Yeah.
If it's not, then
Yeah, indeed. And as we said in the release this morning, we have seen improved inquiry levels. We've seen improved footfall at exhibitions. We've seen improved levels of demonstration. So we fully expect the sales to follow on from those. Yes, yeah.
That sort of fits with the question that's been asked online. What's the target sales? And so I suppose to answer your question another way, if you look at the market expectations at the moment for this year, which is 23, the forecast is for £3 million of sales. So it's obviously showing a lift, from the lows that we've just reported. So there is some traction, but we'd hope, there's further traction after. Yeah.
There's some first units sold to the police, the RAF.
Yes.
That was some time ago.
Yes.
What's the feedback on those, and are there future orders likely?
The product placement in the UK, Eve is just here. She's the lady we recruited from Westminster. It's gone very well in the UK. So the feedback from the UK installations, and I don't want to say too much about too many installations in the UK because this is an open forum and the competitors will be listening, has been good, and we've been getting follow-on orders from UK installations, and that's as well as the RF, that's police forces in the UK.
So is that built into your forecast?
Yes.
There's 90% chance or 10%?
A mix.
No, I'm trying to get to it because I feel frustrated, having been a shareholder for many years, as to the plateauing that's been for a long time. And it's nice to get some more feedback. One of the things when the new director was put in about things, you may raise questions as to what's been happening and why. very interesting to see that directors have now got shares in the company. What's behind that? It's really getting to the grips of what the company's actually going for, and where our own assurances can be passed on to us through confident predictions, or not giving commercial information away, but to feel as though we are part of what you're doing. And quite frankly, I don't. You mentioned about relationships with major partners. But we're a small shareholder, but we still like to know whether our money is going to be safe. So it's this information that is important to us as we look at what's going on. So are you feeling confident that these placed units are going to develop and produce some orders in the future?
For me, yes. I think just to sort of go back to your point about our confidence within the business, as a board, and many of the board invested in the business this year. I did as well, because I believe in what we're doing and how we're going about doing it. Yeah, thank you. And it's not just a demonstration for the shareholding base that we believe in it. We are doing the right things as far as I can see. We're focusing on areas that we're good at, developing those, trying to maximize those. And we've been very conscientious throughout the business about our costs, our strategic objectives, and we're trying to work on those and getting placement of this product and making sure we get repeat revenue from the British Police Forces or the RAF is one of the key targets. And the sales team here, they are heavily targeted, and in terms of what we do on a day-to-day basis, very heavily monitored in terms of our opportunity pipeline, the percentages they're at, and also the competition. It's a very competitive market. We've got a good reputation within that market, but it's competitive. And part of bringing out that latest product is to fight competition. And we want that new product to be not only protect our market share, but be additive to it as well, which is what we have to do.
Mike, do you want to say something?
I have my children I think one of the points of comfort take is that somewhat unusually for some small companies, image scan is maintaining market forecasts. A lot of small companies raw forecasts, and therefore, as private investors, take some comfort that the company now have to report against those expectations. They're moving materially outside those, they're expected to update the market. So the fact that the brokers have got revenue and return to profit forecast this year is giving them a benchmark in which they have to assess their own performance, and they will be expected to update the market if they're not performing, if they can't achieve those targets. So at this early point in the year, we should be confident that they can achieve what they're saying.
Very helpful comment.
Thanks, Mike. And the WH Island, if people don't get your reports, they can get them, can't they? Or not? No, okay.
But if you talk to me and you're a sophisticated investor, I maybe can help you out there.
Yep.
The forecasts themselves are also quite
Yeah.
but the actual reports are designed for.
Yeah. Okay. Just before maybe the last question, one other, someone's asked online, what's the average value of a customer order? I think what Vince has showed is that we have a range of products. You know, what we're trying to do is fill in the higher value. I think, you know, looking at average value is quite commercially sensitive, so it's not really something that we want to address. Suffice to say that the AS1 is looking at a higher value product, which is why we think it's so important. Any last questions in the room before we move on to the formal? No? Okay. Well, thanks, Vince. And thanks everyone for your questions. So let's move on to the formal part of the meeting. So can shareholders present in person and any corporate representatives please raise their hands so that we can see who's in the meeting? Okay, thank you. Has everyone signed the attendance register that's with Emma? Everyone's in? Yep, excellent. So I note that there's a quorum of shareholders present. And as you know, today's meeting was called by a notice of AGM dated the 18th of Jan 23. The notice contains details of the ordinary resolutions, and today's meeting has been called to consider and, if thought fit, pass those resolutions. So the actual terms of the resolutions are set out in full in the notice. Unless any members got any objection, I propose to take the notice as read. Please note that as per the notice, voting on the resolutions proposed at today's meeting will be conducted by way of a poll after all 8 resolutions have been proposed to the meeting. So the first resolution, an ordinary resolution, is to receive and adopt the financial statements for the year ended 30th of September 22, together with the reports of the directors, including the strategic report and the auditors. Resolution 2 is an ordinary resolution to receive and adopt the...
Are you going to invite comments at each point?
Don't think so, are we? We're going to...
I wish to comment at various points. So
Do you? Okay.
Yeah,
well, have
it
open.
Yeah.
Sorry, is you on number 1, Eric, or number 2?
Oh, I'm on number 1.
Number 1, okay.
There are a number of small issues, some of which I've raised with Sarah, and she's answered the questions. I'd like to draw attention to page 38, where it says cash and cash equivalents at end of year. And it says note 15, but Sarah, I think it should be note 14. So I'd quite like to know where we keep our cash, but much more importantly, if we go back 2 years to 2020, we were showing cash of £1.4 billion, and now it's down to less than 700,000, which means we've lost half the cash. Now it's gone in trading losses, it's gone in building the inventory, and it's gone in R&D. So we've heard comments and explanations for that, which I can understand. The question is, where is it going? So does the board have some concept of where it expects the company's cash to be at the end of 2023?
Well, I'll start and then Sarah can talk to the detail. The board has, monthly projections of where the cash is going. We expect at the end of 23 to be, assuming we achieve the forecasts that are in the market, to be ahead of the figure that we ended last year at. We do know cash is king. We don't do anything. One of your other sort of things was, where do we keep the cash? So
I'm afraid there's nowhere to keep cash that earns you very much interest at all at the moment. I mean, it's not like the old days.
No, it's a safety. I mean, you've got it with one or more banks.
Just one bank.
Do we know the bank?
RBS.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And we've been with them for a very long time. Very good relationship. No, RBS. Not NatWest. I mean, I appreciate they are.
Does it exist?
It does, yes. Although, yes, it's a strange relationship, but yes, they are effectively one and the same, but they are also separate. And we're with RBS, always have been. And we have a very good relationship manager who's been in quite recently, I think, to sort of go through where we are and sort of see what support she can give to us.
That's that. And you are saying, Chairman, that the board expects cash to be greater at the end of 2023 than it is now.
If we achieve sales forecast.
Based on the forecast.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you done sensitivity tests to see if it were to drain out, at what point you would need to do something differently?
Well, it's quite interesting. You're sitting next to the audit partner, and one of the audit tests you have to do nowadays is, if you've got no more orders after the day you sign the accounts, how long can you keep going? Now, I can't remember the position when we did it at the audit, but the position today is that as at the end of January, we could still go until the end of December with no more orders. And I think it was roughly the same at the year end. It's sort of 10-ish months. So, i.e., you don't slash and burn, you keep all your structure, but with the orders you've got in place now and the cash you got today, how long can you keep going? And the answer was 10 months.
So you would still do R&D, which means you keep your staff employed in R&D.
Yeah.
That's good news. And as far as inventory build is concerned, that would be modified too.
No, your inventory, you wouldn't buy anything because you're not taking any more orders than the ones you've got. So, but effectively, you're not choosing, if the orders dropped off a cliff, any business is going to make all sorts of decisions to conserve cash, but without taking those decisions, 10 months was the timeline, which, yeah, we do want the orders. We don't want to have that position. Yeah. No, thank you very much. Sorry, any other questions on resolution 1 or 2? Resolution 3 is an ordinary resolution and seeks to authorise the re-election of Vince Deary as director of the company.
Hang on, you've got another one, haven't you? Resolution 2.
I'd read that. You want me to do it again? Resolution 2 is an ordinary resolution to receive and adopt the remuneration report contained within the annual report for the year ended 30th of September 22.
I think right that I should say, Chairman, that you and I have talked about that, we've communicated on that.
Yeah.
And as you know, I'm going to vote against it, and you know why, but I choose not to explain that in the course of the meeting. I'd rather leave the matter in your hands.
Thank you very much. Any other questions on that one? Resolution 3 is an ordinary resolution and seeks to authorise the re-election of Vince Deary as a director of the company. Vince retires in accordance with the recommendations of the UK Corporate Governance Code and being eligible is offering himself for re-election at this AGM. Any questions on 3? Resolution 4 deals with my own re-election and as such, I'll briefly vacate the chair and hand over to Vince.
Thank you, Tim. Resolution 4 is an ordinary resolution and seeks to authorise the re-election of Tim Jackson as director of the company. Tim retires in accordance with the recommendations of the UK Corporate Governance Code and being eligible, he's offering himself for re-election at this annual general meeting. I will now hand the chair back to Tim.
Okay. Resolution 5 is an ordinary resolution and seeks to authorise the re-election of Sunil Vadgama as a director of the company. In accordance with the Articles of Association of the company, he's now required to retire by rotation and being eligible offers himself for election.
Chairman, I'd like to ask a number of questions of Mr. Vadgama. Being elected for the first time, because you were appointed by the board, so you have to come up for election today. Why do you want to be a director of this company?
I can help on technical side, especially on X-ray side and imaging side, bring in new technologies, help with design of products.
It tells us that you can help in a number of technical ways, which Vince Deary has also said, and apparently that's doing good already, so that's nice to know. But as this shareholder asked, the answer to his question is it's not at the moment actually adding to the company's income, as I understand it. It's helping the success of the products in the field, subsequent servicing of them. But it doesn't really explain why you want to be a director of the company. What do you think we are going to get as shareholders from your presence on the board? Are we going to get improvement in income and profits?
If we develop new products, with my help, we can, it will bring in more profit. I think I can help there.
We're here because of RiseTech, which is a major shareholder, and that was mentioned in the RNS, which announced your appointment to the board, and it's been confirmed today. Now, in 2018, the share price was 7.8p. Today it's less than 2p. And that happened because RiseTech blocked a resolution to issue shares in order to enable the takeover of Todd Research. And the share price has never recovered. I wrote a letter to RiseStep directors, which I think was never actually delivered to them, but I believe some of the points I raised were put to them. And I tried to explain that what they had done was counterproductive. And in fact, in my conversations with Tim, a lot of you, I think, generally shared, but he suggested that what drives the share price is the interest of private investors. And by RiseStep's action, it frustrated the aspirations of private investors. And some of them must have been driven out of the company because if it wouldn't sanction a takeover using a 4p share price, and if it's now below half that, it's going to take years and years and years from organic growth, no matter how successful Vince Deary and his team are, to get back to a price at which, on past evidence, RiseStep are actually going to accept. Are you going to contribute constructively to RiseStep's understanding of this basic factor? What is your opinion of takeovers for this company? Are you keen to see them?
I wasn't aware of what's happened in the past. I was just brought in recently.
Yeah. So this is about moving forward, isn't it? So as Vince has explained, the RiseStep after the incident you talk about became disengaged. So this is about rebuilding the engagement. Vince has explained effectively how we see that working. As we'll see in a bit when Emma talks about the support for the resolutions, whilst voting is anonymous, you'll see by the number of shares that RiseStep are voting in favour. So we as the board see that as a very positive indication that RiseStep now are back engaged. No shareholders necessarily going to agree with everything the directors want to do, but we believe the direction of travel is that they are supportive of it. They're supportive of what Vince has presented today. Sunil doesn't represent RiseStep. Sunil's bringing his own skills to the board, but it's part of opening that channel. So we see it as a package that his technical skills are going to help the product range and the acceptance in the market and the growth, but also it's part of that development of the relationship with RiseStep, who are a key shareholder, just like everyone is a key shareholder, but with 22% they can do all sorts of things to the positive or negative. So what we're trying to do is make those to the positive now, and hopefully, if there has been a suppression of the price and interest because of the history, what today indicates is they are now supportive. There isn't a block on the shares that some people may have perceived, and hopefully that's part of moving the company forward. I mean, we can't determine the share price, can we? None of us can. The market determines the price. All we can do is try and do the right things for the company and for the future.
Very good, Chairman. And it's pleasing to know that RiseStep have voted for this resolution that's coming up. It's a very small allocation of shares, so it's a toe in the water. And it doesn't say what the situation would be if we were back with the top research. And while I appreciate your comments and I'm responding to them, it's Mr. Bagama who is seeking election. He wants my vote, which is why I'm asking him questions.
Yeah.
Because although he may not be here representing RiseStep, although the RNS makes it seem as though he is, he nevertheless knows them, because that's why he's here. So I'm interested in your continuing contact, Mr. Bagama, with RiseStep. I want to know how much you understand the need of this company as a small company with slightly more than a single product in the market, which needs other things as part of its product for sales. Do you understand the need to have acquisitions, and that the board, when it chooses to make one, must be supported, especially by a shareholder with nearly 25%, because these things are going to be special resolutions, which will require a 75% majority. With many shareholders in nominee accounts, they won't even be voting. So RiseStep's support for acquisitions is essential. And if they are going to stop one, they should say beforehand, because we lost £250,000 on top research because Rystep did not make it clear to the directors that it would block the resolution. That's £250,000. It's a huge sum of money for this company. So I'm asking you,
Yes.
do you understand the need for acquisition?
Yes.
Yes. Tony, yes?
Yes, I think he did. And just if I can, the conversations with Rystep have been to make sure that they understand the implications of their historic actions and the view that will be taken by their future actions. And hence, that's why we're seeing the resolutions, all the resolutions being fully backed by Rystep today. They understand and appreciate, and they also understand the future aspirations of the board in terms of what we want to do in terms of trading as the business we are and some of the more strategic options that are open and talking about acquisitions, etc.
Okay, can we stop at that?
Well, hang on. Okay. It's good to know, but they need to know also that if they do a repeat performance, they won't sink the business. It's a really good business, but they'll sink it as a public business.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope
Thank you.
Mr. Garmer understands that.
He's a
We haven't
director.
got much invested in the company. £1,000 to buy shares is not a huge commitment to the company. I would like to see you investing more of your money. You've got a successful business of your own, and I hope you would use some of that money.
I've just started, so.
You just started. Well, the share price is going to go up soon, so you've got to find that.
As period.
Okay, let's move on to resolution 6. An ordinary resolution that seeks to appoint BDO LLP as auditors and to authorise the directors to fix their remuneration. Resolution 7 is an ordinary resolution and seeks approval that the directors be authorised to allot the company's ordinary shares under section 551 of the Companies Act 2006 to the value of £136,855. And then resolution 8 is a special resolution and subject to the passing of resolution 7 seeks to approve that the directors be empowered to allot equity securities for cash. I now propose, sorry, hang on.
There was recently about 4 million shares bought by that fund. Is that part of, was that a special deal or was it a stock market?
There's been no shares issued by the company.
No, I think it was done on the stock.
Yeah, just a buy and a sell or between shareholders.
Prior to that, did they do an investigation? Right.
They didn't come here before they bought, no. Okay, sorry, any other questions? I now propose resolutions, the resolutions that Emma is now going to lead us through all the numbers. She's from Neville Registrars. Sorry, Emma.
Thank you. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am representing Neville Registrars today, and I am entrusted with the task of conducting the poll. As has been mentioned, ordinary resolutions 1 to 7 and special resolution 8. Proxy cards have already been circulated to shareholders, and many of you I know have already completed and returned them. And therefore, please trust in the fact that the chairman of the meeting or your appointed proxy will have cast those votes, and they will be included in today's poll. I do have here a summary of the scores of those proxy cards received prior to the meeting, and obviously those will be the starting point for my counting of votes today. Please note, therefore, if you have already completed and returned your proxy card and do not wish to actually change your vote today, there's no need for you to actually take any further action on the poll. Your votes will already have been counted. I am, of course, available to answer any questions you have regarding the completion of the poll cards. So could I just ask you to raise a hand if you do actually wish to complete a poll card today? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chalker wants to.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yes, back to the chairman. Please, thank you.
And what's the chairman do now, Emma?
So the results actually of the vote will be
On
on
online,
RLS, so it'll be an announcement after the meeting now, yes.
Yeah. So as you can see, I'm not a professional chairman. So basically what's going to happen now is once people in the room have had the chance to fill in their votes, Emma then has the votes that she's already got and the ones that are going to be submitted. And they'll be announced to the markets through our regulatory information service and posted on our website as soon as possible. But that's this afternoon. That'll be this afternoon. Okay, so that concludes the business of the meeting, and I declare the meeting closed at 2:30. And thank everyone for attending. It's much appreciated that so many of you choose to come out or to listen online. That's appreciated as well. Okay, I declare the meeting closed.
Tim, that's great, and thank you to the board for updating attendees online today. Could I please ask attendees online not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the board can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the board of Image Scan Holdings PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's annual general meeting. That now concludes today's session, so good afternoon to you all.